Police.
We're going to drop out of that to take you back to the press conference, which is underway in Prague. This is it's the head of the emergency services who is giving the update. And what we're seeing now, we understand to be body cam footage from those emergency services who attended the scene at Charles University yesterday once reports were coming out of what was taking place there. This appears to be scenes from inside. This is outside the university now. It appears to be students evacuating with their hands up. A reminder, 14 people were killed in the country's worst mass shooting, which took place yesterday. The suspect has been named as David Kozak, who we understand had also shot his own father dead before going on his killing spree and then turning the gun on himself. We should be able to now hear some of the dialogue. Let's try again.
The gentleman is not speaking into a microphone.
Což když vezmete potaz, že nějakou ztrátu máme při nabrání té situace operačním stolíkem a dojezdovým časem z toho místa, tak jsme v podstatě byli do 5 minut na místě v té filozofické fakultě a začali jsme se zásahem. Jak budete vidět vlastně, že policisté okamžitě, jak přijeli na místo, tak hnedka vlastně připravili si balistickou ochranu, dlouhé zbraně a šli do záchodu. Ta taktika, která vlastně je nastavená proti aktivnímu útočníkovi, v tomto případě aktivnímu střelci.
Tactics that we apply against active attackers
Nekoordinovaný je založen na tom, aby vlastně hlídky se dostaly co nejrychleji do kontaktu.
prescribe uncoordinated approach at the beginning so that the units get into contact with the perpetrator as quickly as possible.
Výsledkem by mělo být to, že buď teda dojde k eliminaci toho pachatele, případně
The result should be elimination of the perpetrator, or at least we try and draw the perpetrator's attention to ourselves. During the operation, the police proceeded in the correct way. They entered the building and they were searching for the perpetrator. No shooting could be heard. Therefore, the police officers had to actively search for the perpetrator. The only information we received concerning the movements of the perpetrator was that he was supposed to be in on the upper floors of the building, and that's why they immediately moved there. Very bad sound quality. The information received was that the perpetrator was on one of the top floors. Once they reached the top floors, they started searching for the perpetrator, and more units arrived. The more units are on the scene, the easier it is for us to apply our tactics. A perimeter around the faculty was closed to ensure the safety of the public. Now they are looking for the perpetrator. Afterwards, they received information from police officers who were outside, who told them that the perpetrator was on the roof. They immediately redirected their activities to the roof. As I said at the beginning, the tactics is uncoordinated. All of the units try to locate the perpetrator. They operate in all directions. And what happened was, although the space was not very clear, because the entrance to the roof wasn't marked, we were not able to find it quickly. Immediately after we arrived and the perpetrator understood that we were there, he proceeded to suicide. Again, very bad sound quality. That was at 15:19.
Apologies, we're having some technological challenges in bringing you clarity from that press conference from the emergency services in Prague. Our translator is struggling to hear some of the dialogue because it is off microphone. But from what we understand, the police are describing the operation on the morning, saying that the tactics were to operate in all directions, seeing as they couldn't hear where the gunman was in the building. This was just based on varied reports that they were receiving. They deployed mostly to the top floor, discovered that the gunman was not there, then received information that he was on the roof, so then proceeded to go up to the roof. And when the perpetrator understood, this is the gunman, who is being named as David Kozak, understood that police forces were present and he was surrounded on the roof, he then proceeded to kill himself. Let's try and bring you some more of that press conference.
And all of the commanders were trying to organize first aid and to get the building under control, to allow safe transportation of the injured and evacuation of other people to the safe area. Looking for a stretcher, asking whether anyone has a stretcher. This is a meeting which was most effective. A number of injured people. You can see that the police immediately try and administer first aid and to stop bleeding. And because this is the so-called hot zone, they have to somehow try and get people to a safe area. Another policeman who was trying to coordinate the operation was trying to make sure that evacuation and transport of the injured were safe as well. As soon as the evacuation corridor was prepared and ambulances were ready, the injured are removed. This is how all of the individuals who were in the building were evacuated. Now the injured are being transferred outside, especially the acute cases. Then the building is searched again. You can see that the students barricaded themselves in the classrooms, which was the correct thing to do. But when the police were trying to search the building, they had to use force to enter the rooms and evacuate everybody. The evacuation was similar to the injured. A corridor was established, and people were directed through this corridor. We established a staging area, an area where everybody was gathered. It was a warm place. You can see the students who are barricaded in the classrooms. And that's the evacuation process. Again, a terribly bad quality of the sound. And that's all from me. The director of Prague Police. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I just want to add that apart from the operation in the building, there was an operation outside the building because the perpetrator managed to get to the gallery on the outside of the facade, and he had a long optical gun, and the life and health of people around the building were in danger. Therefore, at the same time as the operation was ongoing inside, a perimeter was being established outside. And although there were a number of active police officers, 3 people were injured in the road by the perpetrator. Police fired back, obviously from shotguns, because at the time there were some police officers who were inside who saw the perpetrator. They were trying to wait for him to open up because he was trying to use the gallery to hide. The police then used their guns, used their arms. We can assume that the perpetrator threw away his gun, dropped his gun. We can't really tell yet. Obviously, we will analyze all of the records, all of the recordings. But then all he had was a shotgun, which doesn't have a long range. As we're getting close to him on the gallery, he decided to commit suicide. Obviously, we are analyzing it now, but it seems that it was the shotgun. As for further police activities, following the act, the police had to secure the perimeter. Just to let you know why the individual rooms were cleared, we were receiving information that the perpetrator was not alone. That there was a girl or a woman with him, then there was information that there was one man and one woman and so on. We can't underestimate such information. We have to assume that it is relevant. Then, when witness statements confirmed that the perpetrator was alone, the individual students are taken away in the way as was described. You may be surprised that their arms are up. You need to understand that there may be another armed perpetrator, and that might mean more danger. That's what we teach our guys. We had 6 or 7 exercises this year, and we were trying to teach our patrol officers how to proceed. They stuck to the instructions, and the intervention was professional. Throughout the night, police was searching the crime scene, identifying victims and identifying the injured. If I were to clarify the figures, at the moment, there are 14 confirmed victims among the students and other individuals, and one perpetrator died, therefore a total of 15 victims. We have 25 injured. The director of the rescue service will be talking about the injured and their injuries. You will learn more about the hospitals and so on. I will leave it up to him. Before the morning, we managed to identify all of the 25 injured individuals who were brought to hospitals and where they also underwent surgery and treatment. We have also managed to identify all of the 14 victims. And obviously, as we were identifying the victims, we were also notifying their families, their relatives, together with the intervention service and the police presidium. The public might have felt that it was taking long, but we need to realize one thing. As a police officer, I cannot come to see a mum or a dad and give them unverified information. Therefore, we had to carefully identify the victims. People say, you pick up their ID card and it's clear. No, that's not how it works. Therefore, with the help of specialized teams, by the morning, we managed to identify the victims, and I would like to thank them for their efforts. I would also like to thank psychologists and NGOs who are helping us, because right now, obviously, a telephone line is open at the operations center. People call to provide us with information and to ask for assistance. 3 police officers have already requested assistance. I was on the scene. It left a deep mark on me, and I am shaken. And I have been with the police for 40 years. Hundreds of police officers were involved in the operation. It's not important whether it's 220 or 230. Basically, it was hundreds of police officers. A civilian's vehicle as well as a police vehicle were shot at. There are no injured police officers as a result of the shooting. And I said that the police used firearms against the perpetrator outside, which was when he was firing from the gallery. We fired back from below. Obviously, again, people may criticize the police and say that it should have happened sooner. We need to understand that the perpetrator was hiding. There are a number of buildings around. There were people who were watching, and it would have been really unfortunate if the use of firearms by the police caused further injuries or deaths. That's why the police really wait until they have clear sight of the perpetrator before they use firearms. I do not want to come back to the sequence of activities that was described by the police president yesterday. I just want to underline one thing. Some people may say that the police arrived too late. Ladies and gentlemen, I had that verified. The police were there within 4 minutes. The first police officer entered the faculty building within 4 minutes of the report. I can imagine that some people may say that it's too long or maybe too short. I don't know. I don't want to comment. People have to arrive on the scene. They have to become equipped with ballistics. Right now, there's one thing I want to say. This is a case which may provoke certain emotions among our citizens. They may also consider that an example. Around 1 o'clock, there was a call received. Someone said that they were going to follow the example of the perpetrator and start shooting. We managed to identify this person by the morning. In the early hours of the morning, an assault team was sent out and this person was detained. I can't give you any more details, but we will be trying to clarify the situation. But what happened was that someone was trying to follow the example of the perpetrator, and this person has now been detained. Obviously, we will pay attention to all threats or tweets. We will need to judge which threats present real danger. We monitor everything. We know what is happening. And when the right time comes, individuals who spread such information or present threats will be dealt with. Primarily, we will be trying to deal with those who present real danger right now. I will not be commenting on further things. There are competent investigators who will be able to provide you with detailed information, and at the end of this press conference, you will be able to ask questions. And obviously, if the investigation, the state of the investigation and the criminal procedure code allows that, we will provide information. We want to be open and transparent. However, we need to understand that there are certain things that are allowed by the law and others that aren't. And there was one thing that the police chief said yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, on the social networks, there are reports which say that we haven't got the perpetrator. There is certain danger or there is no danger. Do follow our own sources. We have no reason not to inform the public. We appreciate cooperation with you and with the public. Many operations and searches were successful only thanks to information received from yourselves. Let's do it together. This is also a pre-Christmas period. I'm talking about Prague, but also about other parts of the country. We will strengthen security. I cannot prevent a mentally disturbed person from appearing. We also need to try and eliminate such people as soon as possible and prevent victims. And you may say that this is just my own personal feeling. However, I was on the scene when shooting was taking place. We were shouting at people, telling them to hide, because some people really underestimated the situation. Then when I saw the situation upstairs, when I saw what was happening, I can say that I believe that fast response and arrival of the police officers on the scene prevented further bloodshed and further victims. Because what I saw in the corridors, which were piles of ammunition, unbelievable quantities. If that person hadn't been cornered in time, he might or might not have continued. That's just my guessing, but given what I have seen and what he was prepared for, I really need to thank my people for professional response. Obviously, if you have any questions, if there are any doubts, anything you need answered, we will try and help. Thank you for your attention. Mr. Wojciech Motyka, please. Thank you for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to present the time sequence of the events. And also, allow me to express my deepest condolences to the families of the victims. And now the facts and the timeline.
Chci komentovat okrese Kladno, obec Housteň. Včerejšího dne ve 12:26
Kladno,
volá na linku
the village of Hoseng.
svědkyně s tím, že její kamarád
12:26, a witness called the police
SMS a
and reported that her friend sent her a suicidal text message and is not responding to calls.
reagujou hlídky policie Středočeského kraje okamžitě v řádu
Central Bohemian Police Patrol immediately responded
zdravotnická služba.
and a rescue service was dispatched. At 12:42,
že podezřelá osoba, o kterou
there is a report that
svědkyně má obavu,
the suspect
se chce zabít a že jede do hlavního města Prahy.
who
12:47
said that he was going to kill himself was on his way to Prague. At 12:40, a patrol in the district of Kladno reported that a body of a dead man was found, and during the next few minutes, further information arrives, which says that in the house, equipment is found which resembles an explosive system. At 13:15, a national search is declared, a national search for the suspect. At 13:10, 13:10, the operational headquarters of the Prague police becomes involved. Within the next few minutes, further inquiries are started. At 13:27, a request from the Central Bohemian region arrives for the Prague police to carry out a search at the Faculty of Arts in Prague, including the information that there is a possibility that there will be an armed suspect moving around Prague. At 14:49, we receive information that the suspect might be at the Faculty of Arts in the building in Zaletná Street. Police units are activated and directed to that building because we have a specific address, Zaletná Street in Prague. 14:22, the building in Zaletná is being evacuated. 14:59, unfortunately, information is received that there is shooting at the Faculty of Arts on Jan Palach Square. You have heard from the regional director. The patrols were on the scene within a few minutes. 15:11, the operational directorate receives information that the suspect is on the roof of the faculty building. 15:20, information is recorded that the perpetrator has been eliminated. As we heard at the beginning, he probably shot himself. Subsequently, the building and the perimeter are being secured to allow criminal police to investigate the crime scene. The building needs to be secure. Following those acts, the crime scene is investigated, and that was completed today at 9 o'clock in the morning. The numbers of the victims are established and the numbers of the injured are established. I would like to say that the police never stopped since the Chlanovice murder, and I understand that you are interested in that as well. The police were working 24 hours, 7 days a week. The police who were investigating the case were available all the time. They were very responsible. It was a personal matter for them. I was informed several times every day how things were proceeding. I understand that you are interested about the link between the Kladno district, the Faculty of Arts, and the Chlanovice forest. There are relevant indications, there are relevant signals which indicate that it was the same perpetrator. As for Chlanovice, I will ask Major Stracha from the murder unit of Prague Police to tell you more about that. And I would like to underline what our director said. The public should use the official channels of the police or the Ministry of Interior. Ever since the Chlanovice murder, disinformation has been circulating on social media. It was false information. Immediately after I realized that, I issued instructions for the Prague police to deal with that. And when such information were instigating or approving or represented the crime of instigation, I instructed them to actively interfere. And before this press conference, I was informed that the Prague police is actively investigating several people who were circulating such information on the social networks. I would like to thank the public and the journalists for your understanding and for allowing the Prague police to provide information to you. And I believe that in the subsequent days, you will also be informed. Thank you for your attention. I'm prepared to answer your questions. And now I will pass the floor to Major Stracha. I will just repeat the information that you have heard. On the 15th of December, we received information that a body or bodies were found in Chlanovice forest. It was then established that it was a man and a baby. Afterwards, we learned that it was a 2-month-old baby. The crime scene was investigated. We carried out activities which included witness statements and search for any relevant information which might help establish what happened. You may remember the situation 9 years ago. It was basically the same. In the primary phases, we didn't find any direct witnesses. And because there are no CCTV cameras in the Chlanovice forest, there was nothing to get us started. Therefore, we asked the public, as well as yourselves, to give us information and we tried to use as many CCTV cameras in the surrounding areas as possible. The forest is rather large. It's about 290 hectares. You can imagine that it means a large number of cameras. So those were the first steps. And then we needed to verify the information that we were receiving. And we were trying to analyze all of the information. Dozens of criminal police were working on the case. We had information connected with specific individuals who were in the area. We were able to identify those individuals and eliminate them as potential perpetrators. We carried out a search in the Clanov forest. The objective was to find any traces, anything that might help us. What happened in the past was there were further victims which helped us find the perpetrator. That took 2 days. We carried out further technical and operational tasks, and the team of criminal police who worked on the case from Friday until Thursday were basically permanently at work. We were aware of the seriousness of the situation. And the best criminal police officers we have in the country were working on the case. The tactics of the verification, identification of potential suspects, we approached regional criminal offices. We said that we needed assistance, we needed to verify potential suspects. And I can say that the current suspect was on the list of suspects. The aim of the tactics is to try and find the suspect. Unfortunately, really bad quality of the sound. I can't imagine what the bereaved are going through, but I'm convinced that we have done as much as we were able to do.
Let's just recap some of the key revelations from this press conference. We've been hearing from various representatives from the emergency services, firstly hearing about the police operation, describing the moment they entered the building, initially went to the top floor of the building to then be informed that the gunman was on the roof. And once the gunman had realised that he was surrounded by police, the police say he then turned his own gun, a shotgun, on himself. We also have understood some more about the timeline, the police saying that despite the criticism that they were late to arrive on the scene, they say that they were in the building, in that arts department of the Charles University within 4 minutes of the first report. Let's have a listen back in again.
And it's being investigated by the Prague police as well as the anti-terrorist unit. You also need to understand that we may not share all of the information for some time, but it's to do with our procedures. However, the indications and the version we are working with seem to indicate that the perpetrator knew police procedures. And before I pass the floor to the Director of Rescue Service, I would also like to express my condolences to the bereaved. All of the police officers who were involved in the operation or in the search understand the situation. I might just add, because I'm sure you will be asking this question, has it been proven that the perpetrator of yesterday's murders is the same perpetrator as the one in the Chlanovice forest? There are indications which seem to confirm this. However, we are still waiting for the results of the ballistic tests, and I'm sure you will be informed when we are sure that it is the same perpetrator. In the Chlanovice forest and in the surroundings, police measures will continue until it is confirmed that it was the same perpetrator. And I can confirm that there is no further danger in this area. Thank you. And finally, the Director of the Rescue Service of the city of Prague. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, as a doctor, myself as well as the entire team of our Prague Rescue Service feel with the bereaved, and we highly appreciate the professional manner of the response of the police, Prague police, as well as other units, especially since it's the first ever response with such a large number of injured. I would like to thank all of those who responded. The number of those involved was at the maximum level, given the number of missing people or injured people, and the time that was mentioned by the Prague police managed or gave us the possibility to set up medical care. We transported the injured of all of the categories to hospitals, which were very well prepared. They offered maximum assistance, and they took professional care of all of the patients. And we have good news from this morning. The patients have undergone all of the critical surgery and they are stabilized. I'm not able to say anything about the prognoses, but thanks to the rescue chain in the danger zone, the cooperation with the police, who has trained medical officers, whom we train on a regular basis, and that's proving to be very important. And thanks to our work on the scene, in the wind, in the rain, we deployed everything that we had, the care continued, and then the hospitals intervened. And they are Na Františku Hospital, which also admitted a patient. Traumatic centers in Motol, Vinohrady, Karlovo Square, Bulovka. Thanks to all of them. It was perfect. I will not take up more of your time. I wish there are as few events as this as possible, but the injuries, shots through the head, chest, limbs, fractures, it's not common, and I'm convinced that it's not going to become common occurrence because Prague and the Czech Republic as a whole are very safe. Police training and the deployment of the sources, that's the police, the firefighters, the rescue services, carry out their work in a way which allows to save patients even in such difficult conditions. It's the end of the year. Let's hope it's going to become better. We will always be where you need us. And in cooperation with the intervention forces, we try and do our job. Thank you, and now your questions. I may have more questions, but a couple to start with. Can you clarify once more? Because Mr. Rakushan said that there were 13 victims. So it's 14 victims plus the perpetrator? Yes, right now we can say that there are 14 victims plus the perpetrator. And the number of the injured remains the same. It's 25. This is something that you may not want to reveal. However, at 12:26, you received a report that this person was planning to kill himself. That's correct. It was 12:26 when we received information from a witness who dialed 158 and reported that her friend wrote her a text message and is not responding, and it's a suicidal message. Then the police arrived, and you said that 12:52 information of the police. What's that? The person has suicidal intentions, and the location is Prague. I believe that that was the result of the immediate investigation in the Clanov district. Was there really a link with the Clanov forest? Was that perhaps his training ground? Our information is not verified. I may not reveal any tactical information, however, sorry, bad quality of the sound, it wasn't understandable. We will continue working on that. There's probably a number of possible motives for the perpetrator. Just to add, since he was on your radar, does it mean that you were following him? No. Based on the procedure that we opted for, and I'm convinced that we haven't made any mistakes, we were analyzing the data. The data indicated that he was one of the suspects, so I believe that we acted in the correct way. How many suspects were there? A number of suspects, but really hard to understand, very bad quality of the sound. And the degree of suspicion varied. You received information which indicated that he was traveling to Prague. Did the police warn the management of the Charles University? Did you tell them that a potentially dangerous person is heading towards the university? According to our information, he had a license since May, and he was trained to use firearms. Okay, two parts of the question. As for his gun license, we need to verify that. I don't want to comment that further. And as for his journey to Prague, obviously, the police tried to localize the suspect, and as soon as they established where he might be located, they passed on information to make sure that adequate measures are taken. And we sent our officers to the location where we expected the perpetrator to be. Are there any foreigners among the injured, and how many? Let us wait for further information. I can only confirm that all of the victims have been identified, all of the injured have been identified. And we will confirm further details later. Obviously, you are trying to do your best to get a result, but can you tell me about Clanovice? You said that he was in central Bohemia and that was making it more difficult. Can you give us more details? Did you send a patrol? Or did you send a patrol to Palach Square, to the Faculty of Arts? Someone who might prevent a person whom you might have known. You might have known who it was. It's a critical question.
It's 11 o'clock. We're just listening to a press conference being delivered by various heads of the emergency services in Prague after the worst mass shooting in the country's history took place yesterday, claiming the lives of 14 people inside Charles University. The gunman himself also dead. 25 people in a stable condition, we're told, in hospital. This is just the questions and answers with journalists that we're listening into now.
Within 5 days, we identified a number of suspects and we were able to eliminate a lot of them. And the remaining versions were the worst possible scenarios for criminal police. No links to the victims, no links to the location. Based on such fundamental primary information, we were able to continue in the verification process. Based on some external factors, we applied further strategies and selected a short list of the suspects. You had information which indicated that this could have been one of the suspects. Now we received information we had a group of people whom we would concentrate on. Not one specific person, a couple of specific people. But it was a group of people. Obviously, we worked on the basis of information that it was a person who intended to commit suicide. We sent a patrol to the building of the Faculty of Arts. We learned that that person was a student and was supposed to be in one of the departments in Celetná Street. That's why we directed all of our sources and measures there. And that's why we evacuated the building, because we assumed that based on the information that we received, the person was in a classroom during a lecture. We had no indication about any movements. As for further operational sources, nothing indicated where he should be. Certainly, there was no indication concerning his movement. A follow-up question. Did the perpetrator have a mobile phone yesterday? Because, according to my information, he was on his mobile, and it was clear that he wasn't in Celetná, he was somewhere else. So, might there have been a time and the police might have decided to move somewhere else? We worked on the basis of the information that he had a mobile phone. It was a wider area, and obviously we tried to deploy forces to allow us to find the perpetrator. So it wasn't possible, there wasn't a space in time to detain him more quickly. Given the time sequence of the events, no. And a question about one of the motives based on your information. Do you believe that given that the guy had a license, was he possibly mentally disturbed? Because what we know today shows that he must have been planning this for some time. So, how is it possible that he was able to legally hold firearms? We will try and establish who failed or what failed, but we will investigate that. We have witnesses who say that there were police in front of the building on Palace Square at 13:15 who were asking people whether there still is any danger. Were there any further reports that shooting started in the building? That was in 13:59. Was it perhaps a police officer who was on the scene? No, it wasn't a police officer, it was one of the students. And again, we always proceeded on the basis of the assumption that this is a person who intends to commit suicide. And on this basis, we were taking measures at the faculty building. Nothing indicated at the time. There are many buildings of the faculty, and the patrol then left the building. Yes, they did. A related question. This is a single incident. Will you continue investigating this? I don't think that there was any mistake. If it turns out that there is something which indicates a failure or a mistake, I will have that investigated. But I repeat, currently I haven't found any mistakes. Given the weapons that were found on the spot, sorry, bad quality of the sound. What arms had the perpetrator in the building? And why did the police officers not have long arms? Only short arms. Let's start at the end. There were patrols of criminal police. We sent them there. I sent 3 patrols. They were carrying out operational activities, and based on the information that we primarily had from the operations center, obviously what caught our attention was that there were arms that might be interesting for us. We concentrated on the faculty building, but the colleagues did not have a chance to stop somewhere and pick up different arms. And although they only had short guns, they entered the building. And they put the perpetrator under pressure. And eventually the situation was hopeless for him, and he shot himself. I'm also waiting for the result of tests to confirm that this person also committed the murders in Chlanovice forest. We know the type of the weapon, we know what to compare. But we are still carrying out tests. Not understandable. We have received information that the victims included 2 Ukrainians and 1 Dutch citizen. Can you confirm that? We will confirm that later. I have 3 questions. What motive are you assuming? What was the motive, in your opinion? The arms which the perpetrator carried into the building. For what arms did he have a license, and how did he carry them into the building? We learned that he was supposed to be in the Celetná building. Why do you believe he wasn't at the lecture where he was supposed to be? What were the motives? We are analyzing that. We have some primary information. Again, not understandable. And what were the weapons that he carried in? How many weapons? And what was he carrying them in? And to what weapons did he have a license? He had a license for 8 weapons. Some of them are long weapons. We haven't yet confirmed how many weapons he carried in. We are still putting that information together. What was he carrying the weapons in? Was it a rucksack or a suitcase? I can't confirm. We are working on the timeline. And we can't give you detailed information. And my final question: how did you learn that he was supposed to be at the lecture? And why do you think he wasn't at the lecture? I can't tell you why he wasn't there. That will be the subject of further investigation. And I can't give you any names. Obviously, we will investigate. I assume that it was the department which holds records of where students are supposed to be. Are the victims in front of the faculty building? We recorded an interview with a father who didn't know what happened to his daughter. He called the police. He tried to get any information. He didn't get any information. Why did that happen? And then I will have a follow-up question. I said at the start that it may seem that the identification took a long time. I was there. It's not easy to identify people on the basis of photos. Certain acts had to be carried out to confirm the identity. And we really worked on that throughout the night. And we did not manage to identify some of the people until the morning hours. Therefore, we were not able to provide the father or anyone else with relevant information. As I said, you can't really tell the parents that their daughter is dead if you are not convinced that that's the correct information. Yes, the father, I don't know which particular man, I don't know his name, but yeah, it's possible. And the number? Why did the minister say 13 and then it turned out it was to be 14? Did someone die in the meantime? Or? It's possibly a question for the hospitals, because there were 2 hospitals taking care of one particular patient. And the injuries were so serious that it meant that the figure increased. So someone died during the night? Yes, I believe so, but it's better to answer the faculty hospital, to ask the faculty hospital. All of the patients were brought to hospitals. One of the patients wasn't injured, he was just, they were just feeling sick. That was also treated, but those are the figures up to now. Back to the first question. The building is huge. We used 4 teams to search the building. What's crucial is to carry out proper search. There was a lot of pressure. We were aware of that. We did everything we could to investigate the crime scene as quickly as possible and to ensure the highest possible quality. But I think that the victims were identified pretty fast, given what it looked like that. And back to the number of the victims, the 14 victims include the shot father or not? Evacuation. You were focused on Celetná Street, but shouldn't you have left a patrol on Palach Square, because you couldn't exclude that the perpetrator would go to the main building of the faculty? I don't believe so. There were several entrances. I don't know which entrance he used, how he got in. That's being investigated. Right now I'm saying no, but we will continue in our investigation. The perpetrator posted on Telegram and said that he was referring to a crime committed by someone in Russia. How did the police work with that? How are they working with that? But you didn't inform the management of Charles University about the danger. As for the Telegram post, we are still verifying whether it's a fake or whether it was fully written by the perpetrator. Unfortunately, Telegram is not very keen on cooperating with law enforcement authorities from our area. If it were a different platform, I think we would proceed faster. And did the management of Charles University receive information about the danger from you? Based on the information that we had, someone intending to commit suicide who is traveling to Prague and is studying at the faculty. It's really difficult to link things on which you don't have enough information. Obviously, if there were more indications, we would have taken measures. One more thing. We appreciate the work of the police. When did you learn that he had more weapons? Different types of weapons. It was following the report in the Central Bohemian region when we verified what happened there. That was the first report about him holding the weapons. Okay, it was impossible to presume anything, but could you have assumed that he was going to commit something more serious than his own suicide? And back to the weapons. There are thousands of people who hold licenses, and a lot of them have more than one weapon. And the authorities who maintain the registers do not have an obligation to report multiple weapons. So it's really difficult to predict anything. Thank you very much. Thank you for your answers to our questions.
Well, that concludes the press conference being held by various heads of the emergency services in Prague after yesterday's mass shooting, the worst to ever take place in the Czech Republic, inside the grounds of Charles University, which claimed 14 people's lives. The gunman also turned the gun on himself. The 25 injured, we are told, are now stable in hospital.